Hello, I am an avatar presenting Jim Cowan's work as an AEC BIM specialist. I do some presenting. This presentation is about Autodesk's Revit, which he customized for landscape architects. Out of the box, Autodesk's Revit offers a very limited number of plant species, and the data does not even include the botanical name of these plants or any ecological data that helps with plant selection. Without add-ons, options to create complex landform with quantities are very labor-intensive and time-consuming. On the positive side, any projects can be accessed on the cloud and multiple people can work simultaneously on a project. A Revit model is also an integrated single source of truth, so any change in the model is passed along to all views and schedules. Drawing coordination is automatic. Let's look at some recordings of add-ons and some customization with added visualization using Enscape. The first is LandFX for addition of planting families. The second is Arch Intelligence as used for landforms, and we conclude with customized families in Revit, so that plant choice can be based on good custom data. How can new planting palettes be created in minutes, not hours?
I like the idea of having a palette to use in a project. What LandFX offers is that you can create, it says projects, but actually it means palettes. It's really, the palettes can be either project by project or, by location or by the nature of the plants, if you like this California natives for a habitat garden. And if I open that and then I go to the planting, I can see that I can have a selection of trees or shrubs or ground cover. This is all shrubs. And what I can do is I can say I'd like a new shrub. I can search their database, which is on the cloud. For example, if I typed in yarrow, the common name is finding this. If I look at this, I can see that there's already 155 plants that match this that are in their cloud-based data set for plants. And I can go down and I can pick the species. So I've got Achillea, and I can go down and pick the native millefolium here. And there's a whole bunch of cultivars, but I'm after just millefolium. I can say add to the project, which is really add to the palette. I can say I'm done. I've got this, and I can say, I can double click on it here to open it up, the parameters that have to do with the plant itself. I could also say group it under native shrubs instead of, so it's with these. I could add some remarks. I could add a cost. I'm going to add the size. Let's say this is to be a 1 gallon plant. I can add a width for the symbol. Let's say it was to be 3 feet wide. I can click on photograph and then click in here. So I can see the yarrow, and then I can pick an image of the plant that it'll add as part of the data for my project. I can pick on 3D, and I can decide what kind of symbol I want. I'm going to look under perennials. Anything that's grayed out is something that I've already used in the project, but I can come down and pick anything that's here. Let's say I just pick this shrub image here. It has an associated 2D symbol. So what I've got is the 2D symbol, a 3D symbol, and a photograph. And I can say, okay. And with it selected here, what I can do is place it into my Revit project. So I've got that as a plant. It just saved me a lot of time.
How can you quickly create complex landform using Revit elements that have layers of multiple materials so as to get quantity takeoff as you design?
Here I've got a topographic surface. Here I've got flat floors that represent an area of earth and an area of stone mulch. And what I can do is I can say shape topography. I'm going to pick the topography that's here. It shows that. I'm going to pick this slab, or this floor, and this floor. I'm going to say that I'd like the top of the slab to be maybe, say, 3 inches above the top of the topography, conforming to the curve so that it'll take account of these more points along the curve in my terrain. And then I say, okay. It now conforms to the shape of the underlying topography. Then I can say, select all instances of my plants in here, pick a new host, pick where I've got the stone mulch, protect, offset from host, nothing. They're now on this, and if I did something like, I'll render it in Enscape so you can see it, so I'll say start. In Revit, out of the box, you get forced to create multiple points along the edge of the floors. And when you come to edit them, you're really forced to edit these sub-objects one at a time. So this saves me hours of work. I can do in a few minutes what otherwise has been taking me a long time. I've got Revit running, I've got my Enscape window running, and actually let me just show the assets here. So I've got over 1,000 plants. If I go in and say that what I'm looking for is, say, apple, tree, I can take my asset. I may even have choices on whether I want full color or not, but I can take it and I can place it directly into Revit. Because these are live models, it's going to update in here to show it. Let's say I looked at that here. I can go and I can have paths. So for example, if I wanted to look at the courtyard in my building, let's say courtyard inspect, this will give me saved locations where I can have these keyframes to look at my courtyard or navigate around and figure out how my design is going. But if I'll go back to what I was doing before and say load the path for South Building inspection. This is me outside again. I've got my saved locations here. Keyframes. I can play this like an animation so I can show people what's going on as I design. Or I could take the whole thing and I could export it out. That would take a few minutes, but then I'll show the finished movie. I did edit some of this, so when I bent the floors to the shape of the topography, when it was processing the points, that actually took about 2 minutes. And when I rendered out the animation, that took about 15 minutes. But it was a high quality, high resolution animation that I'm showing. So I've just touched on the major advantages of the add-ons. The most important part for me is still the data.
Can you add data to plants? Can you use it to locate and color code the plants according to combined search criteria? Yes, you can. This shows the value of customized data and the ability to filter with a query and assign a color code. There are 200 plus species found in a tallgrass prairie ecosystem and 100 plus relevant criteria for selection. You have a plant ecosystem that has the documented value of its plants and their context regarding habitat, flora and fauna. Here the color coding is for woodland, wood edge, open prairie and disturbed areas. If you have documented the value for wildlife as medicine for crafts, climate conditions for soil, sunlight, etc., you start making connections to the whole web of life. What increases with grazing? What annuals colonize disturbed areas? You get the big picture and can communicate the value of the habitat and how it self-heals and is sustainable in nature. Sustainable buildings need sustainable landscapes since the plants are producers of everything we need. There is a huge role here for landscape architects who understand they are working with living things and the plant-soil habitat connections. We do not need visually greened marketing proposals as just visual concepts. We do need a landscape architect's knowledge of plant requirements and what they have to offer beyond visual aesthetics. If all the buildings in the world were sustainable and the landscape is not there, supporting biodiversity and all forms of life, what is the point? How useful would it be for a highway or a parks department or a botanical garden to be able to redress the value of the plants? What retards fire spread or an event like a drought or flooding? You can predict how the plant community adapts to change. The point here is that this can be visually illustrated, and we know a picture is worth 1,000 words. Regarding utility, what provides a natural dye? What was used in building materials or weaving? This example is for medicinal use. You can combine criteria with and/or conditions, for example medical use, and then those restoring native habitat can explain to others what is lost to research if we lose our native ecosystems. Using Enscape, as you design, you can see the landscape come together as the plants can have a 3D representation. To reiterate, plant data on sustainable ecosystems easily updated for local conditions through editable schedules or imported spreadsheets. And you and your clients get to see the proposal come together with 3D representations of the topography, materials, and the plants.
The reason SYNERGY-AEC was formed as a company is to further knowledge of digital solutions so we can promote, design, and maintain a whole, healthy planet. The monarch butterfly, for example, is on the endangered species list. When the pollinators go, so do we. We are ultimately the endangered species under threat until such time as we make our urban and agricultural environments sustainable. At a recent local chapter meeting of the California Native Plant Society at Woodland Community College, Saratoga, we got to see a moon garden for moths, mostly night pollinators, and a native plant garden. So we know there are solutions out there. Kudos to the college, its students and professors. A great source of relevant data is California Native Plants for the Garden, which was presented by Bart O'Brien. A landmark for Jim was he saw his first Anna's swallowtail on his home landscape. An exciting week.
Let us know if we can assist you. The plan is to offer classes remotely to design firms, as e-learning classes and through university landscape departments and extension programs. The end goal for SYNERGY-AEC is to provide impartial, objective training and support.